So like everybody's telling me to watch Severance. Apparently Severance is amazing. I keep hearing from everybody, watch Severance. Oh, I also know this. It's not done yet. There's a third season coming. I don't know if you're gonna get rugged. I'm not taking the rugging risk because the time commitment is just too big. Because at least if you get rugged on White Lotus season 1, you don't like it, 6 hours, whatever. You could get rugged on a show where you spend 20, 30 hours.
Welcome to another episode of Not Investment Advice. You got Trung Phan, Bilal Zaidi. We already said it's a double recording. We're wearing the same clothes. Trunk's got some snack. I got some cheese. I got some cheddar. I got some Kerrygold Dubliner cheese to keep me going.
What are you eating? What are you eating?
String cheese and cheddar cheese, and then we got a
little... Wait, you have one string cheese and one cheddar cheese?
Just to mix it up, bro. Just as a cheese. It's like
bro.
It's a legit. What you got over there?
I'm eating roasted broad beans.
Yo, kill it.
So
yo,
high
they look
protein.
good.
High
That's
protein.
good. That's a good move.
Sour cream onion. So,
I appreciate
tell
that.
listeners, okay, you know what?
Let's get straight into it because we're going to talk. I mean, we're basically going to combine a few of the AMA questions we had left with some other topics we had. So let's just get straight into content recommendations. We're going to talk about, as Trung put it, the case against streaming TV shows. But let's start with a few content recs. People like those. So maybe whatever comes to mind, but something we've watched recently, listened to, read. Do you want to go first?
You go first because I know you have one off the tip of your tongue.
All right, yeah. So watched, this is, you know, a lot of people might have seen it already, but Adolescence, did you see this on Netflix?
I did not watch it, but I know the hype is insane. Tell the listeners what's going on.
Very cool show. It's definitely quite intense, so you got to be in the right mood for it. I think it's only, is it 4 episodes? Very British style. You know, we do a lot more the limited style series. Some of the best TV shows I think have been those British 6-episode ones, you know, like Call of Duty. Have you ever seen that as well? Call of Duty. That's several seasons. I think you'd like that. That's really, really incredible as well. But back to Adolescence, it's about, it's quite intense. It's about a kid and a murder and the family and the impact on the family and the wider community, the school.
A knifing murder. Because this is a problem in England, right? Because there's gun control, so a lot of violent crime is knife-based, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's just a lot of layers to it. I mean, it's also shot incredibly beautifully. You might know the technical term for this, but they're basically shooting in one big shot.
It's a single shot. So the hour. So cool. I know the technical. Tell me if I'm correct here. Is that each episode is about an hour, 4 episodes, and the way they shot it was they spent weeks and months. So I just know the technical side. I haven't watched it yet. I watched the making of, and they spent months preparing to coordinate the scene. Because imagine if you're gonna film in one take, where you have to go to a house, to the police station, and drive. How much coordination you need, right?
Mad.
Right?
And also even think for the actors, because have you ever been on a set where they're recording like a TV show or something? Or you know how it works?
No,
right?
I have, yeah.
Yeah, and they're doing multiple shots, right?
Everywhere, right? They got the boom guy, they got the camera.
And then you normally do it from different angles, right? It's like, one side, someone's face is on it. I mean, honestly, even... Yeah, just doing a podcast is close to one shot, but like even we make mistakes or like people doing a conversation on this.
You brought such a good point. We can't even do these podcasts in one shot. We make mistakes and need to get edited out. So,
they need that open air prompt. Make no mistake. Make Adolescence. Make no mistake.
Well,
no,
dude,
but it's really beautifully shot. The acting is incredible. Apparently,
we got to shout out to the creators, Jack Thorne and Stephen Graham. So Stephen Graham is the creator, co-creator, and the father in the show.
He's a legendary actor in the UK.
Tell me about the kid.
The kid apparently is his first ever acting gig on film, apparently. I'm assuming he's done theatre or something, because that's what I was going to say. It's closer to theatre, right? Because if it's one shot, that's obviously when you go to watch a play, they get one chance as well.
Yeah.
So that makes... But there's so many incredible scenes. Like I said, it is quite intense. So... You know, if you got kids, like for some people, it's too intense. Like I wasn't actually in the mood, especially to watch it. But then I heard so much about it, and I watched it, and I kind of got sucked in. Very, very good show. Definitely recommend it. And so, yeah. What about you? I think that we got an obvious one as well that everyone watched.
White Lotus, but I'll tell you why. It's actually not for the reason you might think.
So
it's
good,
like you mentioned. I like that you brought up Adolescence. So I wrote an article a couple weeks ago that kind of popped off. It's called "The Case Against TV Streaming Shows," and the reason I brought the article up is I want to list off some shows that I started watching in the past few years, and they all have one commonality. You get text messages and you meet people, and they're like, "Oh, you have to watch a show." Oh, bro, you have to watch a show. How often you get that? So let me give you a smattering of what people have said to me over the last 5 years. Dude, The Bear, it's so good. You have to watch
Oh
it.
man, yeah.
Bro, you seriously have to watch Ted Lasso. Trung, Trung. Have you seen Yellowstone? You will shit your pants. I think that might be Jack. Jack might have made me watch Yellowstone, by the way.
Yeah, yeah.
Are you watching The Mandalorian? It's unreal. I'm serious. It's incredible. And then a recent one, this one really pissed me off actually. Dude. Watch The Three Body Problem. It's amazing. It's amazing. Here's the thing. All these shows I started watching. I'm like, oh, this is pretty good. Inevitably, in every single one of the shows I just mentioned, there's a drop off. Either within a season, so Three Body Problem was an adaptation of a famous Chinese sci-fi book. Within that season, from episode 1 to I think 8, it shot to bed. The opening scene was a cultural revolution in China, which has basically never been done in Hollywood. I'm like, this is amazing. Totally shit the bed by the end. Mandalorian, season 2, 8 ass. Yellowstone, Kevin Costner left the goddamn show. How am I supposed to keep watching this thing? So, and I think you'd mentioned something, Bilal. So, my beef with a lot of these streaming shows, and I want to make a fine distinction here, because a lot of people will be like, Trung, TV's always been like this. In the 90s, if you watched a TV show, it might get canceled. So the key difference I want to make is this. In the streaming era, Netflix and its algo is so fine-tuned that it will always have something for you to watch. So that's one thing. You will always get sucked into one of these vortexes. And then the other thing is this. At least in the 90s, when I was watching, even a show that might have got canceled was kind of shitty, I knew for a fact I was watching it at that time, Thursday at 9 p.m. with 30 million other people. So the next day I can go to whatever school, or a lot of people have to go to the water cooler. You have a shared cultural experience, right? Do you see what I'm saying? It's like, when did you binge Adolescence? It was on your schedule, probably on your phone for all we know, right? It's like
It was literally between my TV, the gym, and take a little iPad on the bike, and then in the bed, literally on the phone. So all three.
Certainly there was a cultural moment because it was the most watched show on Netflix for many weeks.
And I probably did it within 24 hours, honestly. I probably watched the whole thing.
Exactly, right? It's like, but that was more like 4 hours is more like a film. So the point I was trying to make with the case against TV streaming shows, it's multifold. But did you get that? Does that thrust make sense? Let's start with the first one. The shit you like is either going to drop off, because when these things get picked up, they're not getting picked up to the finish line, a lot of them. But Adolescence got picked up for the finish line. You knew in 4 hours you'd have a completed story arc. That's why I liked White Lotus. That's my content rec. It's 8 hours. And for people that haven't seen White Lotus, start with season 1 or 2. Same deal.
Do you know what? We just started season 1 again. So that I was going to make that point.
6 hours.
We haven't really done this. We do it with films all the time, right? Like you haven't watched a film for 8 years and you'll rewatch it. You do it with books. In fact, I think that's a great recommendation. You go and reread books is a great thing to do a lot of the time. For some reason, I just never done it with TV shows. Because there's so many, and there's so many other things to watch, obviously.
Well, the thing is this, I rewatched some of The Sopranos, and I'll rewatch The Wire. I would like to rewatch The Wire. Like, those to me are just some of the greatest pieces of art ever created.
Yeah. But do you know what's interesting? When you go back to watching it, because you kind of already know what happened. So we kind of know what's happened, but it was this is 2021, this is season 1 we're rewatching. And it's like, I kind of know what's happening, but it kind of takes the stress away. You know, like when you're watching, you're like, what's going to happen? We kind of know what happens at the end. And you pick up on all the
small things, right?
Exactly, that they reference in season 2 and 3.
Because Mike White is an incredible... Mike White, the creator of The White Lotus, is an incredible writer. So, I mean, his story is interesting. We don't have to get fully into, but he started in the early 2000s making Jack Black movies. And him and Jack... Like, he did School of Rock and... what was the...
he did School of Rock.
Remember the wrestling one? Jack Black did a wrestling movie, right? You remember? He did a wrestling movie. He's a Mexican wrestler. Anyways.
Okay, I don't think I've seen that one.
Mike White had this reputation of a guy that was an incredible creative, but could never really pull off like the super cultural film or TV show. He had a show on HBO in the early 2010s with Laura Dern. But you'll laugh. Between 2010 and 2021, when White Lotus happened, his biggest claim to fame was he was on the show Survivor and like came in second, right? So but if you think about it, there are Survivor elements in White Lotus. He took the best parts of Survivor, which some people think is one of the greatest TV shows ever, right? The reality show. He took the competition element, and you know their ending is going to have one winner. And in White Lotus, you know somebody's dead, right? That's the entire conceit. It's an anthology show. But yeah, Bilal, so back to it. The things you've mentioned, everything we've mentioned here, the things I'd recommend are things we know are completed. I know I'm gonna get a resolution, right? So like everybody's telling me to watch Severance. Apparently, Severance is amazing. I keep hearing from everybody, watch Severance. Oh, I also know this. It's not done yet. There's a third season coming. I don't know if you're gonna get rugged. I'm not taking the rugging risk because the time commitment is just too big. Because at least if you get rugged on White Lotus season 1, you don't like it, 6 hours, whatever, right? There's some shows like Lost. Remember people got rugged on Lost? And this is all network TV days, but it's not the end of the world. But you could get rugged on a show where you spend 20, 30 hours. So, Bilal, you'd mentioned a show that you got canceled on. So that's another problem with streaming. They cancel a lot.
Oh man, it's when they leave you on a cliffhanger. Like we went through, is it 12 episodes of Shantaram? Have you read the book as well? You know, it's like it's a pretty fun, but it gets mixed reviews from people. But I enjoyed it, and the show was pretty decent. It was just like you kind of get sucked in. It's in India, and it's kind of this Australian guy who's escaped prison essentially from Australia, and then he goes in the underworld in India. Cool premise, cool show. But man, I don't recommend it because at the end of the show, you're like, what happened? You know what I mean? So you get rugged. You get rugged by the TV show.
That's what I'm saying. So this is the case against TV streaming shows. And people, I want to make this very clear, the difference here. On network cable TV, at least when you got rugged, you knew you were getting rugged with a lot of other people at the exact same time. That's number one. Number two is this. You weren't getting like algorithmically fed binge watching where you could literally just, you could do it with DVD box sets, but that's still not the same as there's a screen in front of you where Netflix is throwing you like the most scientifically fine-tuned thumbnails to get you to go down rabbit holes, right? And like, even at least with YouTube, you can skip in 3 minutes, 15 minutes. You can go down YouTube rabbit holes, but way more learnings going on there. And like, you can go down social media rabbit holes, but you also feel like ass after a 2-hour TikTok sesh, right?
Yeah,
you can watch 8 hours of TV show. You're like,
the other thing is, Trung, with White Lotus specifically, just to come back to it, it was, I want to kind of get your take on it, and hopefully people have watched it by this point, and if not, you can skip ahead if there's any spoilers. But it's just such a unique show, right? And what I love is a couple of things. Every season there's like a new cast pretty much. There's like normally a couple people that stay on. There's continuity,
anthology,
which is
right?
fun.
You don't have to have watched everything.
Exactly. You can just start, and each one's got its own vibe. Obviously it's really beautifully shot and everything.
Well, each is in a different city.
Yeah, exactly. Hawaii, Sicily, and then this recent one was in Thailand. And just very, very cool that each time with a new cast they still make it fun, and you love all the characters, or you grow to love some of the characters and hate some of the characters. In this one, obviously the English,
so well written, right? That's the thing. Mike White,
the English girl with the teeth, she was amazing in this one.
Amy
she
Lou
was
Reese, I believe. And they had Walton Goggins. They had
Walter Goggins was
shout out to Patrick Schwarzenegger, man.
Oh, incredible as well. And then, who's the other guy? He's very famous as well, who does the epic scene with Walter Goggins. What's his name again? You know what I'm talking about.
Rocker. Sam.
Anyway, people are shouting in the.
Dude,
Rockwell, no?
Yeah, Sam Rockwell, legend. Yeah,
legend. Rockwell. That scene is one of the best scenes I've ever seen, man. It's so good.
Dude, it was, for the listeners that don't know, it's like, I'll tell you an interesting thing about the scene.
Spoiler alert if people haven't seen it. Because
for the listeners that haven't watched White Lotus, there's a scene in, I think it's episode 3 or 4 of this season, when one of the characters, he goes to Bangkok to meet his friend. And you don't really need to know why, but his friend basically goes on this crazy monologue talking
You've seen the memes if you haven't watched it.
Yeah, you've seen it. He moved to Thailand, started banging hooks every day. He said he did 1,000 after 3 years. He's like, after 1,000, it gets kind of weird. Like, you no longer get your rocks off. So he's like, started getting dudes to come over. They started banging me. The lady boys started banging me. And then I started dressing like the Asian chick. He's like, what if my entire purpose here, because there's a lot of Buddhist themes in this season. He's like, what if my entire purpose on earth is to become an Asian chick and get banged by white dudes, which is what they ended up doing. No, but it's crazy. So many memes, but here's the crazy thing. I'll tell you why that scene, other than the fact that Sam Rockwell, incredible actor, and that scene stood out to everyone. Mike White, when he made the 3rd season of White Lotus, he went to Thailand, right? And the Thai government was a little bit concerned because they know how he writes characters and how real his characters are. They're like, hold on a second. Are you going to come here and write about the underbelly of Thailand? Because I'm sure a lot of people Listen, it was like the classic millennial move. You go spend 3 months in Southeast Asia. You know the drill, right, Bilal? I mean, I ended up
I don't know
spending
what you're
5 years
talking
there,
about, Trunk.
but like, no, but like, no, but
No, I
like
know what you're
that.
saying.
So the government's like, hold on a second, Mike White, are you gonna come here and make this story all about hooks, like white dudes and hooks?
Oh, that's a
Tell you
good
what, that
point.
seems
Yeah.
brilliant because they were able to pull off the absolute underbelly of the Thai nightlife sex work world, which is, I mean, like, let's not pretend like it doesn't exist.
It's part
right?
of it's part of it
It's
for
a part
sure.
of the culture. They pulled it off without necessarily having to show. I mean, spoiler alert.
Yeah,
later
it's
on, they
about
show a little
him.
bit. Yeah,
Less so about them.
and it doesn't make it look that crazy. It makes that guy look like an asshole. It makes
That's a
him look
great point. It's like in
degenerate.
comedy, a lot of the time, specifically in comedy, like you'll hear stand-up comedians talk about this, that when you're talking about a taboo subject,
Yes.
you need to often make yourself the butt of the joke.
Correct.
Because otherwise, it's just,
Dude, I
if
love
it's
that you
like
pointed
punching
it
down
out.
or whatever the phrase is.
Mike
In
White
this
nailed it.
case, yeah, they did a
Nailed
great
it,
job
right?
of that.
It made him the degenerate. It made and when later on when they do party, you're just like, hey, you actually like the guy. But
Oh,
like, you're
yeah.
also like,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
you're also like, okay, here in this scenario, this dude and this scenario, these are the bad people involved in this, right? And then yeah, everything else that you said, Bilal, you brought up such great points about White Lotus, and it goes to my point where like I will only watch anthology shows now. Like I want to know there's finality. I don't want to like Yellowstone's probably the one that I got rugged on the most. It's like
Is that because
40
I haven't
episodes
watched the
in.
whole thing? Is
yeah,
that?
it's just like Kevin Costner bounced and like.
Oh,
I'm gonna
really?
give you-
Okay, that's a good thing. Good for me
Let me
to
give
know.
you some
'cause-
more three tangible things
Yeah.
about why streaming in general, but I'll just stick to this streaming TV shows as an issue. So here's how the economics of streaming ruins the quality of shows. Okay, I'm literally gonna walk through the structure of the business ruins the creative process. In Netflix, they have 30,000 plus micro genres. So you know how Netflix can just carve out, like Bilal, you had an Indian story, Indian novel action. It's probably what you described as the show you liked, right? There's 36,000 is micro genres. One of the genres is called casual viewing. And this actually makes up the majority of a lot of content on Netflix. And you know what casual viewing is for? It's because Netflix knows a lot of people are throwing Netflix on in the background.
Yeah, second
Like,
screening.
They're doing second screen, they're doing other stuff, they're either, doing chores or literally
It's that
on the
reality
phone, right?
TV show in the background, like
Exactly.
Real Housewives style,
Exactly.
funny stuff.
Reality TV show is the perfect example of this. However, Netflix apparently, allegedly, has been giving notes to film and TV producers on fictional things to understand that a lot of the viewers are doing things secondarily. As I was saying, it's like the Netflix, allegedly, some producers have given notes to some creatives, directors, and been like, hey, listen, by the way, Julie at home in Vancouver, she's going to be watching this show while doing laundry.
So this was, where was this? There was dialogue leaked. Where was this? Just
No, it was like, apparently it was like producer notes sent to the creatives. And the whole point being, Netflix is denying this, but a lot of people in the industry said they received these notes. It's like, if Julie in Vancouver is doing laundry while watching this show, can you just make the dialogue like super explanatory? That way she's kept up on the plot points. You see what I'm saying?
I've heard that. I've noticed that watching certain shows. You can
Dude,
tell it's
Bilal,
descriptive. Yeah.
There you go. So I'll give you the very specific example that I clipped it. It went super viral online about Lindsay Lohan. This is what she said. We spent a day together. I admit it was a beautiful day filled with dramatic vistas and romantic rain, but that doesn't give you the right to question my life. It's like,
That's hilarious.
it's just like you're telling, it's the opposite of show don't tell, right?
Yeah.
And that speaks to literally the economics of Netflix. If they know that their average subscriber is second screen, so that's crazy, right? It's like you're
That's
actually seeing
crazy.
now
Yeah.
how the
Now we're gonna
economics
notice that
of
when we're
Netflix-
watching it.
You will, right? It happens a lot actually. So there's one thing.
There's also
Right.
Trunk. Can I say one other thing?
Yes, of course.
Similarly, it's not for the second screening, but have you ever watched like those dating shows like Love is Blind? Have you ever seen that?
Yeah, I've seen it.
But the way you can tell they've been told by the producers to say certain phrases. Like they're like, "Oh, that is my mind just went blank." But "Oh, I'm here for the experiment." Like they use that phrase for a long
you want
time.
to add the drama, right? Or really, really rev up the drama, like
Or like there's just certain catchphrases that they need to refer to it as that,
Yep.
not something else. And so anyway, sorry, go back to what you're saying.
No, but
So-
like, or you see where I'm going with this? Like the economics and the technological platform of streaming literally impacts the quality of the show itself.
But would you
right?
not say, have there not been other versions of this before streaming?
No, what I'm saying is like people always throw that back to me. It's like, oh, this has happened before. But I'm saying whatever it was before,
It's still
now it's
optimizing
on
for
demand
quality.
and it's
This,
so far to like
yeah.
and you go down these rabbit holes and the amount of volume, right? I'll give you an example. This is from South Park creator Matt Stone. He was interviewed by Bloomberg last year, and they asked him, "Do you watch streaming shows?" This is what he said, and tell me if this resonates. And I think this comes down to what your upsetness with the cancellation of your show. He goes, he talks about the bread and butter. Okay, he talks about if the viewers aren't going to see my hands, but Bilal will, and he'll laugh. It's like the world has this much bread, right? Let's say the piece of bread is this big, but the amount of butter is like this much. There's only so much butter to go around. And this is the point he's making. I feel like the butter and bread equation has gotten really screwed in the 2010s from streaming. The studios are saying, look at all this bread we have. We have this amount of bread, but we have a lot less butter. So it doesn't work where just because this economics of streaming demand you have content so people don't churn, you are creating, I think Netflix spends 15 to 20 billion a year in content, right? It's like you're forcing them to actually make not good content just because there isn't that many good ideas. So the odds of you like sliding into a shitty show is just way higher than during the broadcast days, and it actually makes a very interesting thing. So Bilal, cancellations. You had mentioned the cancellation, right? There's actually a formula for guessing when Netflix will cancel your show. So if there's a new TV show, the number that somebody found, I mean, this might have changed now, but if it doesn't get 100 million hours viewed in the first week, they're like the odds are Netflix will cancel it, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. Still massive, but not good enough for Netflix. But here's what happens: if there's too much bread for too little butter, people will create a show, right? Let's say it's, you get a deal with Netflix, it's for 10 episodes, but really it should have only been 8 episodes. But they need content. What happens when episode 3 is the biggest piece of shit ever? The reviewer is going to drop off. What happens if the viewer drops off? They have something called completion rate. One of the big key metrics for Netflix is also completion rate. How many viewers that start a show finish it? If that rate is low, it's getting canceled. So do you see what's happening here? It's a cycle. You over ask for something, it becomes a shitty episode. The shitty episode leads to the cancellation of the show, and it pisses off the viewer. So the quality is just completely going out the window. Do you see how the quality is no longer the main consideration?
Yeah, I get you. Yeah, because it's, I mean, like I said, I agree. And I think on the flip side, though, we've also had, I think we've just got so much content. So we've got really shit stuff like this that serves
too much.
this
It's too much. Yeah.
use case. But then there's also, we've had Succession, White Lotus, you know,
Sure.
all these amazing shows. So I think there's just like a distribution of this stuff. So my equivalent, I'd say, like, for example, Jerry Springer growing up, right, was clearly made for just like absolute
but amazing,
incredible entertainment. I loved it, don't get me wrong, but I'm saying like a lot of people criticized that back in the day. Not exactly what you're saying for like second screening, but I guess the idea of you're optimizing for drama and just like kind of lowest common denominator is probably a way to put it. And a lot of people criticize that. And my take has always been, well, if people were listening to it, it means people want it to a certain extent. And I'm no one to say like you should or shouldn't watch something. You're still
free market guy, right? It's like
exactly. But the only thing is you want both, right? Like you want the marketplace of ideas, marketplace of content here in this case to be like, you don't want the high end to go away because that is such beautiful art essentially, you know, like, so if it goes, but right now I think we're getting a bit of both. So I'm okay with it.
Let me give you the last argument and we'll wrap it up. It's from Quentin Tarantino. So obviously he's a film guy. He's going to be biased. This is what he told Joe Rogan. I actually would love your thoughts on this because I love how you're hitting the devil's advocate on. You're steel manning the other side. Still, dude, I was listening to the most recent. I don't really listen to Lexus much anymore. I don't really listen.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, there's too much content. We're talking about too much content. I think the last episode I listened to Lex Friedman, he said the word steel man 50 times.
Yeah.
Like it's out of control.
Yeah, it's become a meme by this point. Yeah. And it's annoying because it's it's actually a very useful
it is a good idea,
thing to do. Yeah, but go for it.
So I'll give you, this is what Tarantino said about Taylor Sheridan, the creator of Yellowstone. Sheridan's a beast, by the way. Sicario, one of the greatest movies of the last decade. Taylor Sheridan. This is what Tarantino says why he doesn't watch streaming TV shows. Ready? Did I lag? Are you ready to rock and roll? Okay. A lot of TV now has the patina of a movie. They're using cinematic language to get you caught up. While I'm watching Yellowstone, I am compelled. But at the end of the day, it's all just a soap opera. They've introduced you to a bunch of characters. You actually kind of know all their backstories, but you don't remember much of it 5 years from now. You're caught up in the minutia at the moment. The difference with a good film is I'll see a Western and I'll remember it for the rest of my life. A good Western. I'll remember the story. I'll remember the scene or that scene. It built to an emotional climax of some degree. It's not just about interpersonal relationships. The story is good itself, but there's a payoff. There's not a lot of payoff on television. I think he brings up a very valid point. And it has to speak, again, to the medium of television. If you start a new streaming TV show and you don't know it'll get finality, you will forget that show. Because the whole point of storytelling is to get the narrative arc, get the moral, get the story, and have it come to completion. We've talked about it here. It's the hero's journey. That is embedded in human psychology, right? So I think the argument Quentin Tarantino make, obviously a bit of hoity-toity film guy, is film is a 2-hour capsule, right? You know you're walking into a theater. Also, the theater experience where you're not double screening. You're going to walk out and you're going to have the full arc. What do you think about that argument? That's more of a just don't even watch TV anymore. Just watch movies.
Yeah, fair enough. I get it. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you
That's
can't
a pretty
argue
good
with
argument,
Tarantino.
man.
Yeah,
that's a pretty good argument. It's
he
like,
knows his stuff. Yeah, I guess my whole thing is like, for me, I've always just like people create what they want to create, and there's people like different things. So it's not I don't necessarily agree with like telling people what we should do.
It's not
obviously,
all or nothing,
like
right?
you said. Yeah, it's like I do agree though. To me, if I saw that we weren't getting great TV, because I actually think we've probably been the golden age of TV shows as well, right? Like we've had so many.
Well, in my opinion, I think the
amazing
golden age
shows.
was early 2000s with HBO, right?
Fair enough. Yeah,
The Wire,
the HBO.
Sopranos,
Yeah,
and then Breaking Bad, Mad
You're
Men.
right, you're right.
10-year stretch. So like,
that's a good point. You're right.
we're not on that level, right? So it makes you wonder. I'm just saying that was my
No,
case.
that's a good point.
Streaming TV shows. You want to read the full piece, people? There it is.
It is interesting though, Trung, really last part on that. When you watch movies from the 2000s or even TV shows, just the waiting time to get into the action is so much longer. Like, just think of like a 90s movie. There's like 3 minutes of credits in the beginning of the movie.
Yes.
They're just in it. Like, I told you I was watching The Terminal or whatever, and it's the, with what's his name?
Tom Hanks.
Tom Hanks. Like the first 3 minutes are just shots of the airport, and it's just literally like titles, and it's fine. Like, I was fine with it, but just comparing that to our TikTok brain, whatever you think of that, like comparing it to like White Lotus, like straight into the action.
Totally.
Like, you start White Lotus,
TikTok
there's
brain.
a murder, basically.
That's literally
right?
why. That's literally why, right? Let me wrap up with this final thought, just to make my case. I don't want people yelling at us like, "Oh, network TV is the same." It's because of the micro-targeting binge nature of it, which makes it different. At least you had a shared cultural experience, and that's why when Bilal brought up Adolescence, I totally get it, dude. Adolescence hits everything. Became a massive hit. It's 4 hours. It's not even a TV show. That's a movie. I'm sorry.
But that's also a good thing with White Lotus, that because they were dropping it every week on Sunday night.
That's the other thing.
And HBO does do that.
Creates
to be
the
fair.
hype.
And that's I know for
TV
Game of
does the
Thrones they did that, Apple TV as well. But yeah, so definitely good. Let's keep going with any other watches, because we've got Listen To and Read as well. If you've got any recommendations.
Let's do Listen To first, and then we'll do Read, because that will go into our last topic of TV and self-help books. You know what? Actually, let's do this. Let's jump to the self-help, because that was an AMA question. We don't have to do the full content. Let's do that, because the book reco can be the end.
That's fine. So have you got a book recommendation? Or there was a question from Joseph. He said, what's the best, he said, what's the book for self-improvement that you guys always go back to? Very specific lens.
I'll answer this.
And go for it.
So I think this is like a classic, what's the best book to learn about business, right? It's like people ask that. Like, what's the best book for self-improvement? As you can probably imagine, like, I'm not a big self-improvement book guy. I just think the best books are reading biographies. Literally. Yeah. It's like you want to go through somebody's, you want to know the type of challenges you might face and how others done it. It's like, just read biographies, man. It's like you're getting the inside look of people in difficult situations. And it just shows, and plus, how many people are just allergic to advice, right? All this generic stuff that we see, like Twitter thread boys, it's brutal, right? It's like, there's no context. At least the biographies, you have the context, right? And then you can actually relate to yourself with the characters in that biography. So I'd say definitely It's biographies. I wouldn't even say I have one.
Have you got 3 or 5 like some of your favorite ones?
Yeah, I'd read. I mean, off top, like, obviously people aren't going to be in the same situation as Abraham Lincoln, but like you get to see the extent of the difficult decisions that need to be made in certain situations, and how he often considered the greatest president ever. Why he was considered, even though his record's not spotless. Same with the MLK Jr. His record's not spotless, despite how often it's portrayed in modern media. Gandhi's the same, right? Some of these figures, you have to read about how complicated their lives are. Any figure, really.
Malcolm X, have you read that one?
Yeah, Malcolm X, like
classic one where he's doing some wild stuff.
Malcolm X, wild stuff, right? It's like, but that's the point. Is like the human experience is wild. That's why the self-help book doesn't work for me.
Yeah, fair enough.
But I will answer. I read Team of Rivals.
Which one, sorry?
Team of Rivals. It's about the cabinet that Abraham Lincoln put together. So this book became the source material for the Lincoln movie by Shakespeare. So a really good book. This is actually an Obama favorite. It came out in 2005. I read that. I definitely read we talked about it before, but Robert Caro's books on Lyndon B. Johnson. Again, it's about how he became president, but it's more about
quite interesting that when we asked, that all of these are politicians or leaders, which is not a crazy thing, but curious that
because this is a historical backdrop they have to make. Because this is the best. Okay, let me cap with this, and you give your book. Is like the reason why obviously I'm attracted to these things personally is obviously there's a historical side, massive events, big figures, right?
Yeah.
But the other part of it is when you see people criticize politicians, obviously they deserve the criticism, a lot of them in a lot of ways. But the thing you have to understand about these world leaders is anything that reaches their desk is an impossible decision. If it was not an impossible decision, it would have already been decided, right? There are levels call it 10 levels between the person that identifies a problem and it gets to the president of the United States or prime minister of any country, right? If the president or the prime minister, or go back and past the king, emperor, has to make a decision, it's because that decision could not have been made beforehand, right? So if that decision comes to that desk, it's definitionally almost an impossible decision to please everyone. You will piss people off because that decision would have been made if not already, right? So that is the key thing about reading biographies for me. And you did mention, Bella, I was like, these figures that come out, I was like, I think people, it's such an important thing to understand, especially in our like hyper partisan social media, like clapback world, is you understand these decisions that are getting made by any leader, even in executives and businesses. They're impossible decisions. If they weren't, they already would have been made, right? That's why these books resonate with me, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. What about if you said, and this isn't, there's no right or wrong answer, like your favorite business biography, are there any of those that you really would recommend? Again, some of them are honestly kind of obvious ones, which is, they're obvious because they're good, like the Steve Jobs biography is great. I mean,
I'd actually say
Isaacson.
Walter Isaacson has a great book actually about it's a good book because we were talking about the anthology versions of
Innovators
TV shows. Yeah, exactly. There you go. It's a collection. Perfect. Thank you, Bilal. Yeah, Innovators.
That one's good.
It's a collection of business people and innovators and tech people. I also say his book on Einstein and Benjamin Franklin are exceptional. And again, you learn about people in difficult situations and the hard decisions they have to make. And these are not infallible people. Very, very
100%. Most of them do some wild stuff.
Oh, they do some.
So that's good to see as well.
Einstein married his cousin, man. He like dumped the one wife to marry his cousin. Yeah, it's like I know it's a different time, but like.
Yeah, that's right. Did you see this Theo Von clip about someone calling in saying they married their cousin? It's one of the best videos I've ever seen.
Okay.
He's like, that thing's gonna need some glasses at least. The way he keeps going on. Anyway, the other one, these are classic ones, honestly. Well, no, I'm just saying the biographies real quick. Shoe Dog obviously is a classic. It's not like, again, novel. People know it already, but it's good for a reason. The Steve Jobs book. I don't have too many more to add, to be honest. I have a bunch that are like, like the man who solved the market. I was going to say self-help similarly to you. I've definitely read quite a few, especially when I was younger.
Goggins
is great, if that counts. I do love, actually, Goggins ones are really good.
You Can't Hurt Me. I would say You Can't Hurt Me is
that's actually, I agree. That's a really fun one because you just start to see like whatever's going on in your life, man, everyone's got their own shit happening in different ways. And yeah, he's just especially if you listen to it as well, like, because they do the midpoint
the podcast
at the end of every chapter is quite fun as well. So yeah, I don't know if I have an answer. Honestly, again, very thread boy cliche. Our boy Jack is in it, and Eric has been on the pod. Naval's book is actually very, very useful, and
the Naval
lot of that's a very, very good book, and I've definitely highlighted it a lot and revisited parts. But yeah, again, probably quite an obvious answer that you've heard of before. Just to share another book that isn't biography related really quick. I can't remember if I shared, this is completely random and a lot of people won't even be relevant for. I can't remember if did I share the zonal marketing too? Did we talk about this?
Which one was
it's
it?
called zonal marketing. This is completely not about business, but just something I read, and I actually think I read it last year because I was just looking on Goodreads of books I read, and for someone who likes history like you, and say someone like history and likes football and doesn't want to just have business stuff going on, man, it was so much fun to read that book because it explains kind of modern football, where we are today, and the evolution.
You learned a lot about general management, right?
Yeah, but specifically like the way the football world has gone to, specifically where it came from. Basically, a lot of it came from the Netherlands, and he explained each big chapter. It starts by a certain country, so it'll be like Netherlands. This happened, then it went to Spain, then it went to France, then it went to Germany, then it went to England, and all the kind of how that through line ended up to kind of where we are with English football being an amalgamation of all those things coming together. So again, completely not related to business, investing, whatever we're talking about generally, but really, really loved that. Last year, I think I read that, and it was quite a fun one.
It doesn't have to be business, but this is beautiful. That's perfect.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so that's kind of the self-help section, right?
Yeah. Did you have any listen, or do you want to skip that one?
Let's skip that and go straight to the last topic.
The only one I'll just say real quick, because I've been listening to a lot of history stuff. You don't have to share one. Rest is History pod, obviously, like I think it's the number one history pod alongside.
It's in the UK for sure.
Yeah, definitely UK, but even here it's one of the top 3, I think, history pods. And then the same network, I think they do one called Empire, which I've also been trying to learn a lot more about. My own background being Pakistani from the Middle East, Muslim background, so they do a lot of really interesting stuff on the British, going to India. Just a lot of it is like industrialization and empire stuff going there.
Wait,
also
the Rest is History launched a companion podcast?
No, I think it's the same network, like Goalhanger, I think they're called. If it's the same people.
They do a bunch of them. They do Rest is Politics, the Rest is...
exactly.
That's a big one. Rest is, they do football also, right?
Yeah, but I was just saying for that part, because a lot of the history stuff cover like World War II, World War I, and they cover like European-centric stuff. What I liked about it is there's stuff about Persia, there's stuff about Iranian stuff, and for me that's been really interesting learning a little bit about that Ottoman Empire, stuff like that as well. So anything else on that before we move on?
No, let's. That's beautiful. I love that. You know what's funny? I think my reco 6 months ago for 2024. No, I probably did Rest of History the year before. Dude, great podcast. I totally agree.
Oh, did you recommend it last time?
Dude,
I might have heard about it from you, to be honest.
They do like 200-300K a month in ads, maybe more. They're
killing it. They're great at what they do. I will say that I said it to Trung before I recorded the pod, but Empire, that pod, sounds like people. They're the poshest sounding English people. They sound like people that were running the empire. Like that's why it's funny. But they're really great, and they do an amazing job. So.
They sound like MFs administrating the colonies.
yeah. Like I was literally listening to one about how Iran became Shia, which is like my family's background, and the guy who's speaking is so like I can't remember his name, but I might even have to look it up. It's just the most incredible, whimsical English guy, and he's just like an old dude who's been studying this his whole life and just knows everything about it. So very, very cool. Anyway, anything else before we wrap it up, Trung?
Yeah, let's go to we're gonna wrap up kind of a casino business.
Yeah, let's do that. So
my recent trip to Las Vegas.
The question here is, what is the business of Vegas? Let's explain. This was not an AMA question. This is
no, it wasn't. It was one that we want to talk about. That's for fun. So Bilal, I'll ask you, when's the last time you went?
Like maybe 6, 7 years ago.
6, 7.
I've only been twice. I've been twice.
Did you go for Google stuff?
I went in 2013 for the Global Google Sales Conference, which was insane. Nikesh Aurora, now head of SoftBank, was leading, getting everyone in trouble. And then the second time I went, I've mentioned on the pod before, was when I was at Charity Water. Went for the most random thing in the world. It was a dental conference in Vegas. Crazy fun. Where Pitbull turned up on stage 11 a.m.
Were you trying to get dentist money?
No, basically dentists. One of Charity Water's biggest partners is a $1 billion dental franchise company, essentially, SmileGen. And they think of like all of the people that have franchises come to this big conference. So they already raised like millions of dollars for Charity Water. We were there kind of spreading the word, representing the org, having a good time. And it was, really, really fun. But Pitbull turned up 11 a.m., gave an inspirational speech, and then 20 minutes later, just the lights went down, music went crazy, and you had all these dentists raving it out. Incredible experience.
Hilarious. So which tellies have you been at? The hotels.
Which hotels? I'm not even. I think it was. Was it Venetian? I think I stayed at the first time.
Yeah, the big boy. Yeah.
And the second one, I don't even remember, to be honest. I don't remember. That might have not been as nice because it was on the non-profit dime. You know what I mean? So, in fact, do you know what? I think they may have even paid for us to be there because we were probably supporting their work. But where were you?
No, I'll run through some interesting things about it. So I stayed at the Bellagio, and I stayed at I've been at the Wynn. So I've been at Harrah's, which is on the Strip, but a little bit dustier. Bellagio, also on the Strip, when it was made in the year 2000, it was a top
incredible
in the world. But because it's so near the Strip and it's connected to the Strip, let's be honest, it gets a little bit riffraffy in there. And the Wynn was a little bit further. The Wynn's near, that's where the Sphere is. It's separate. It's connected to Venetian, but it's not near the Strip.
Did you go to the Sphere, by the way, in the end?
I did.
I want to hear your take on that.
Episode because, I mean, we could do that. That's a fun one. Dude, so super. I know you know about it, and I know a friend of the pod that may or may not be working there, so we don't have to reveal anything. But interesting business, right? So the thing that they did was I went to watch Postcard from Earth, which is the Darren Aronofsky film. That's actually their moneymaker.
It's the one. So the whole thing is taken over, right?
Yeah, it's 45 minutes exactly. Wow. It's like imagine IMAX, but like 50 times.
Is it sick or is it overrated?
No, the experience. I mean, it's expensive. I think it's $100+ a ticket.
But unique though.
You want to go at least once, right? And here, I'll tell you the interesting thing. The way the Sphere is built, you can't just have any musical act in there because it's so weird. It's cavernous, right? And they have that thing in the
and they have to record stuff specifically for that big canvas.
Exactly. And so I'm a little bit. I looked at the business numbers a bit, and they've had to change the model a bit because it's also very expensive to build. I think it's $2 billion to build, and because you can't have concerts running every night there. It's not like Celine Dion used to do Caesars. Her show, I've been at her show, which is amazing. But like, not you. They're eventually probably going to have a residency inside the Sphere to really help it make money. But again, it goes to your point when you said, Bilal, like you have to have very customized stuff, right? Like U2 ended up doing like 3-4 months only. And then you have single events with huge fan bases like Fish. Fish did a 3-night stay there. UFC, which can obviously open an event. But their moneymaker, and they need to do more of it, are these films. Because you film it once, you run them all day, right? So they'll run that showing of the show 5-6 times a day. And obviously they'll just absolutely rip your face off on the concession. But great, interesting business. So what I understand about the business now is that they're licensing. They learned so much from the construction. They're licensing to build. I think you knew about this, right? Weren't they going to do one in London? I think they scrapped that one.
Yeah, they're doing one in Abu Dhabi, I think, right? Or
they're going to do one in the Middle East, and they'll probably do one in Asia. I'd imagine Singapore will eventually get one.
Yeah.
But
because it costs so much, like you said. But long term, there is. Yeah, I mean, it's a really
an
unique
attraction, and the thing about the movies that work is because Vegas always has people coming in and out, so they'll always want to check out that movie, right? And so it's owned by the Dolan family, which Madison Square Garden, the New York
and
Knicks.
The Knicks,
yeah, exactly. So that's TLDR is like definitely worth a go. 100% recommend that. But I want to talk a bit about the casino.
So real quick, I've heard from people that aren't just my friend. So we can say one of my friends became.
We've heard from people that aren't just my friend.
He's I'm looking at executive vice president ad sales sponsorship. So he's basically
Amazing.
head of revenue. So he's killing
Amazing.
it. He listened to the pod. So yeah, and so I do get to hear kind of all the crazy stuff they're doing. Very, very cool. Also, like with, I think they did like stuff for Formula One, didn't they, back in the day? Or like they had the thing around there.
I didn't even mention the ads out front, right? Like I think.
But I was saying like UFC and like stuff that happens live. I think is really interesting as well, just because it's just a crazy experience for people. But
the earned media you get, right? Like somebody runs a drone through the UFC thing, you'll have 100 million people see that, just the drone footage of seeing the fight. But yeah, it's an interesting space. It's like not everything can work there. The seats are amazing. Because Dolan's a huge music dude, huge audiophile. He wanted basically like IMAX caliber audio just for your seat, as in, so like they can target the audio for the seat in an incredible way. But yeah, 100% worth the experience. Man, it'd be great to get your friend on, just talk about the business of the Sphere, whatever he could disclose.
Yeah,
because it's obviously super interesting. But the other thing I'll add is then just about casino resorts. So we'll wrap with this. Interesting happened with the business of Las Vegas casino resorts. So 40 years ago, the majority of the revenue was from the gaming floor. But basically from the creation of the Bellagio under Steve Wynn, and then Venetian with the Adolescence, it flipped. The revenue went from 75 gaming, 25 resort to now it's 25% gaming, 75% room, F&B, merch. I mean, they just absolutely rip your skull off, right? It's like, dude, we went to the corner store inside the Bellagio and it was like a coconut water was $10. Bottle of water, $8. Banana, $5. Just like, but I'll tell you the funny thing about that, which I didn't realize. Obviously, these companies are listed publicly. And I mean, it's a very Wall Street move. You rip people's faces off in the corner store, you get them on the gambling floor because you can, I mean, I don't have to pay $10 for coconut water. I'll sit down and play slots. They'll give you a coconut water for free if you start playing. But free in air quotes because you'll get your face ripped off on the gambling floor, right? And it leads to my last thing, and we can wrap with this. The casino business is, I'm in Las Vegas. So let me ask you, Bilal, what do you think the number one source of revenue in terms of a game is? Blackjack, roulette, poker, slot machines. What do you think?
I'd say slot machines, right?
Right. And it's not even, dude, you know that. It's not even close. Slot machines, I'm going to give you the number.
That's crazy, right?
In Nevada, last year, the gaming revenue, so the 25% portion of the whole casino business, so smaller now, $15 billion in gaming revenue in Nevada last year. 70% of that was from slot machines. It's more than every other game combined. It's because slot machines are obviously digital crack, right? It's like, we know it from our phones. We've talked about it. It's like every addictive thing you have in your smartphone was created and perfected by slot machine creators. Variable rewards, like the digital screen, the feeling of winning and losing. So the last thing I'll add on that is it went from 0 in 1980 to 70% of revenue, gaming revenue. And it's actually crazy how it happened. This, Bilal, you're gonna laugh at how this happened. Bunch of states in America needed revenue. So they obviously had the lottery. They started adding slot machines. And slot machines became acceptable because you know who played slot machines? It was actually women and old people.
Yeah.
So the degeneracy that you'd have related to gambling, it became quote unquote socially acceptable because of the clientele using the slots, and they added in all the computer technology that came up in the 1980s and 90s, right? The consumerizations of computers, digital screens, that whole nine. So, and one of the to me the like malicious rebrandings ever was changing it from gambling to gaming. It's like gaming revenue, bro. This is like,
that's funny. Yeah, that's a good point.
Gambling, right? And no, do you have a question about the
No. I the kind of other point I had was just around because the decline in revenue. Because I think I'd shared this. I think it was let me see the date. This is March 2nd. So that was, what's the date today? Like a couple months ago almost. About that, someone had written a thread about the decline in revenue of about casinos. Vegas.
Yeah.
And in real terms, it's gone down 30-40%. And so, yeah, I think the big thing is obviously people can gamble. You know, sports betting has been legalized in a lot of places in the US. But I asked my friend, and he basically said he thinks the framing of that was a little bit he wouldn't agree with. He said that Vegas is becoming more and more entertainment location
more resort,
versus
right?
casino.
Resort entertainment, exactly.
Exactly. And so with that, with people going for music, going for sports events, Formula One, like all those different things, Sphere is the number one Billboard highest grossing venue on the planet. Apparently, obviously biased, but yeah, that was his kind of take on it.
Source. No,
there we go. Yeah.
Let me add one last thing. Here's the last thing we can wrap up this episode. The double record is when you left Las Vegas, did you see any slot machines?
I don't remember anything by that point.
At the airport.
It was. Oh yeah. I guess they're there as well.
Let me give you the inside baseball. We'll wrap up with this.
Yeah.
The most unfair slot machines in Las Vegas are at the airport, and I'll tell you why. So in Nevada, a slot machine, there's a law. The minimum payout for a slot machine is 75 cents on the dollar. So for every dollar that slot machine gets, it has to pay out 75 cents. Most casinos in Las Vegas, particularly around the Strip, will pay 90 cents on the dollar. And the reason is simple. If you want people coming back and playing, you don't rip their faces off, right? If they're not winning, they're not going to come back. So the airport, though, they keep it near the minimum. Why? It's because idiots like me are coming in and out of town. I'm not going to be a regular anyways, right? So I'm throwing in one YOLO bet at the airport before you bounce, right? Or maybe I'll try to win it back. But that's it. They keep it at around 75 cents on the dollar, which makes it the most unfair slot machine in Las Vegas, which is kind of hilarious, also kind of genius. But those slot machines, if you've ever been there, people that have flown out of Harry Reid International Airport, they've made $1 billion lifetime in the last 30 years just from those slot machines. But yeah, that's it. We'll wrap it up. I know
that's crazy.
Things to do.
No, that was great, man. Thanks for doing this. And yeah, I hope everyone enjoyed this. You guys will be back next week. I'll be back the week after. And let's see how it goes, man. For people who know, there's a big Champions League game going on. As you guys know, big fan. So big semi-final, first time in adult life. Try my best to get there. So we'll see how it goes.
Big Bilal. You tell us on the update, man.
There we go, man. All right, boys. Enjoy the rest of the week. Have a good one.